Hello and welcome back to the Royals Review podcast. I'm your host, Dan Worth, joined as ever by my good pal, Jimmy. You join us on the back of another poor away result for the Royals. A trip to the New York Stadium ends in a 2-1 defeat for Reading after going 1-0 up thanks to a Lewis Wing perler from a free kick. Jim, what did you make on the game and the result on the whole?
Yeah, I think it was just like a typical League One match, really, wasn't it? Disappointed to throw away the lead at half time. But yeah, like you said, great goal from Lewis Wing, his second of the season, I think, both being fantastically taken free kicks. Obviously, Rotherham got back into the game and then got a scrappy second goal, which puts them ahead. And then, right at the end, Reading had a chance to equalise. Again, pretty scrappy, but unfortunately didn't find the back of the net. So, I guess, the poor-ish run of away form continues. I think, we probably, on another day, could have got a result there. But, it's another loss on the road, unfortunately. And that does need to change.
Yeah, you're spot on. We'll start with the positives because there are a couple of negatives that we will need to touch upon. And the one positive is the one you've already mentioned is Lewis Wing's goal from outside the box, a lovely free kick smashed into the top right corner. The keeper had absolutely no chance. You may have seen that I've been posting on X all day actually about Lewis Wing, which is not unlike me. I'm quite frequently posting about Lewis Wing, but he seems to be coming under a little bit of scrutiny at the moment for his performances, which I think is pretty unjust, to be honest. I think he does and he has been doing the basics very well, but he hadn't really been getting on the score sheet. But he has done that here with an absolutely wonderful goal. We actually spoke at length last week about Ben Elliott drawing fouls and saying it's only a matter of time because we've got Lewis Wing who's going to be on these free kicks that he just smashes one in, and lo and behold, what was it? 5 days later, we get to see that in the flesh with as I say, a wonderful goal. Just quickly, Jim, what have you made of Lewis Wing? Because last season, obviously, his name was up in lights quite regularly because he had his best goal scoring season in his career, and he was assisting left, right, and centre too. Hasn't quite been at that yet, albeit only 9 games played. Any comments from you?
Yeah, I think he's been really good. It's a slightly different position, slightly different role that he seems to be playing this week. I know we've touched on it before in previous podcasts, but he's sort of just in front of the back four, picking up the ball from them. So yeah, he isn't as far forward as he was last season. So he's obviously not shooting as much or scoring as much. But I seem to remember he had a slight, in terms of goals, it was a slightly slow start last season for him as well. He's got 2, and all it takes is if he scores in the next few games, then he's already on track to hit his targets from what he was last season. So it would be good to see Wing start pushing forward a little bit more, but I also want that back four to be as solid as possible, especially with the with players that are filling in gaps on the wings. But yeah, all in all, I'm very happy with how Wing's playing.
Yeah, I agree. I posted a comparison from WhoScored.com of Lewis Wing last season versus Lewis Wing this season, and bar the totals, which is obviously the stats that have 39 games in them. All of the per game ones, he's actually performing better this season, bar long balls, which I'd argue is probably a positive that he's not smashing 5.2 long balls per game now. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Lewis Wing. I never do, but I think he's been great, and as you say, playing a slightly different role, maybe a little bit further back. But yeah, I think he's great, and I think the negativity around him, or the not necessarily negativity, but some comments left, right, and centre saying that he's not as good as last season, I think are fundamentally incorrect. Right.
Yeah,
so the negatives
I guess that people are just sort of looking at his his goals. We are missing his goals. compared to what they were like last season, or it may look like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we've lost Femi, who popped up with a bunch of goals and assists last season. If Wing's playing a little bit deeper, then he may not, get as many goals as he did last season. But we have seen other players, step up and score. So yeah, I think between the squad, we definitely have, players that can score and will score a decent amount of goals this season. So yeah, I also agree. I don't think it warrants all the slating that he's been getting on X and social media recently.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you have to remember that the majority of Lewis Wing's goals last season were from outside of the box, which
Exactly.
is not the most sustainable method of scoring goals. That said, I have no doubt that he probably will score quite a few from outside of the box this season. But it's not like he's been poaching goals or getting in loads of goal scoring chances this season and missed chances. It's just he hasn't launched them in from 40 yards, which probably will come over the duration of the season. But yeah, it's not. Reading shouldn't necessarily be looking at Lewis Wing as, oh, he's going to pop up with 10 goals a season. Like, don't get me wrong, it would be absolutely lovely if he did. But the goals really need to come from elsewhere if we're going to win games and score freely. But yeah. Right, negatives. Firstly, I wanted to talk about the red card to Kelvin Iabashman for a second yellow, a little scuffle in the corner. Reading were already 2-1 down. I don't know what you make of it, but I personally am not looking at it with too much anger or frustration because, well, one, I think the Rotherham players made such a meal of it, like really didn't need to go down like that. But I guess in that position, you're bound to do that to try and get some punishment for the opposition. But I personally just quite like seeing Kelvin going over there and sticking up for Garcia. I want a team, and we've spoken at length about this too, that fight for each other, fight for the club. And like, don't get me wrong, I don't want players to be getting sent off every week for pushing people around and making silly tackles and things. But yeah, you want players that are going to run through walls for each other and for us as fans. And I think, yeah, I'm not condoning Kelvin, and I'm not saying that he did the right thing, but I don't know. I do kind of look at it thinking, yeah, good lad, like supporting Garcia. He's like 16 years old, and these guys are trying to goad him and push him around, and Kelvin's just not having any of it. But yeah, ideally don't get sent off next time, Kelv. But no hate. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, man, I totally agree. To be honest, it's annoying that he got sent off when we're 2-1 down and trying to get an equaliser. But yeah, like you said, it did look pretty soft. It looked like the Rotherham player definitely sort of made the most of the scuffle. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm just literally going to repeat exactly what you said. Garcia he's literally just broken into the first team. He may not have even thought he was going to at the start of the season. By far the youngest player in our squad. I don't know if he may even be the youngest player in the league at the moment. So yeah, it is good to see that someone's got his back. Kelvin's got his back. The team have got his back. If he's getting pushed around. So yeah, it's annoying that Kelvin's going to miss a game. But I guess these things happen. Gives us a chance to see what Campbell or Candy can do. I know we did briefly mention about, I'm sort of taking it, sort of going away from what we were saying here a bit, but we did mention that, like, Kelvin, he started the season really, really well, but he sort of dropped off a little bit. Hasn't scored recently. I don't think he's picked up an assist. He's really technical with the ball, and he is good on the wing. But a couple of games out might just let him get back up to full strength, and maybe he can just sort of start off again where he started against Birmingham and he scored. So yeah, it's annoying that he's going to miss the next game. Wait, he's going to miss the next game, or is it the next?
Yeah, I think he'll miss one game, right? Because it was a double yellow.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree, and you are spot on. He has dropped off a little bit with his output. He was Reading's highest rated player for a little while because of his strong start to the season, but he's now down in fourth, I think. So,
Hmm.
yeah, don't get me wrong, he's not been terrible in that time, but he was the shining star, and not so much now. And obviously, the red card definitely doesn't help his ratings. But yeah, back to normality, I suppose, for him after a really fast start.
Yeah.
Um, we've touched upon it already, but again, there's been a lot of discourse on social media about Reading's away record, and feels like something that has actually gone back over a few years now. That Reading are not quite as strong. Well, they're definitely not as strong away from home as they are at the Select Car Leasing Stadium. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Ruben Selles has only won 4 matches away from home in his 25 away games for Reading FC, which is obviously not a great return. This season, we have just 1 point from 4 away games. That's incorrect. 5 away games, which yeah is also not great. Do you think that Reading or Sellers needs to change tact um, away from home? I've seen a lot of people suggesting that we should change the formation, maybe be a little bit more defence minded. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a really tough one because part of me, I think with the away games this season especially, the performances haven't been terrible. Like against Birmingham, you know, we we got 1 point because of a late penalty. So I really do think we could have won that. Um, Wrexham, yeah, we got banged. But there were definitely positives to take from Wrexham. Bolton, ref was on a mad one, so many penalties. And then Rotherham, that like I said, it was a typical League One match. We could have drawn that. Um, and these all sound like excuses. So, and I guess in a way they are. But I just don't really know what he needs to change. Whether it's something in midfield, it's really hard with the defence because we've got players that are sort of filling in the gaps. With Michael Craig and Garcia. So where does it change? Do we sort of drop um, Ben Elliott for Savage, someone maybe a little bit more defensive that can sit alongside wing? I'm not really too sure, but yeah, I don't think the performances have been terrible, and I do think they will get into a sort of routine of being able to perform and pick up points away from home. Um, but yeah, like you said, it's five away games now. Is it 4 away games? 4 away
5 away
games.
games, 1 point.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's open for discussion, really. Um, I'm sure Sellers is very well aware of the situation. Um, but yeah, I really do not know what needs to change.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning here that, in my opinion, Reading have probably played the hardest away games they'll play this season. Which, yeah, I'm not saying you'd expect Reading to lose those games because, as you said, most of them were quite tight. The Birmingham one was very tight, as you say. We could have won that. Rotherham the same. We probably, I mean, I'm not suggesting we could have won that, but we could have got a point. And then the other two are just like, yeah, a little bit freakish. So I'm not overly concerned about the away form at the moment. I think if we have this discussion in like January, say, and it's not really picked up, then I will be concerned. But again, I'm not suggesting that easier fixtures on paper result in Reading winning, but Reading will have much easier away trips than they've had so far, and you would like to think they'll have more chance in those games. So, yeah, I'm not getting too down on the away form at the moment. Probably also because the home form is so good that we almost, not that we don't need to. That's a stupid thing to say, but like we don't need to be winning loads of games away because we're picking up loads of points at home, which is keeping our league position okay. Like don't forget we're still 2 points off playoffs, which is pretty good.
Hmm.
But I also think the reasons for our poor away form are quite clear, or not all of them, because some of them will be unknown. But like we have a really thin squad made up
Yeah.
of quite a few inexperienced players that I'm not saying they aren't capable of winning away, because of course they are. But in League One, where there's loads of fixtures with a really thin squad, like we just aren't going to win every single away game. We probably won't win every home game. In fact, we definitely won't because we've already lost one. So I just think like I'm kind of getting a little bit bored already this season of when Reading win, we're going up, and when Reading lose, we're in a relegation fight. Like I think Reading fans on the whole just need to think, well, we're probably just going to be somewhere in the middle, like no matter what happens. Because I don't think the away form is massively cause for concern, but obviously without it picking up, we won't go up. But I also don't think we need to be shouting for sellers to have questions and fingers pointed at him just because we've only picked up 1 point on the road so far against, as I said, like some of the toughest opposition in this league. I've gone a little bit of a rant there, but do you have any reasons as to why the away form's so poor, or basically just the same as what I said?
Basically, just like what you said, and what I sort of mentioned before. It's really hard. I don't want to keep putting everything sort of negative down to the facts, like everything that's going on at the club. But look, we do have a really thin squad. We do have young players that are playing out of position, or this is their first or second season playing. So these losses on the road are they're gonna happen. It's something that you need to expect to happen. But I'm positive that they'll pick up at some point. Fingers crossed we'll see that change soon.
Right. 10 games in now, albeit Reading have only played 9, so 1 game in hand. What have you made of the season so far? Reading and beyond. If you have any comments outside of Reading, I'll be happy to hear them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually been a really fun start to the season. Just in general, we've got obviously with like all the hype around Birmingham. I feel like there's quite a lot of eyes on league, and like even with Wrexham, I know just like how their club is and how many people are interested in Wrexham because of the documentary. I just think there's like a lot of eyes on League One at the moment, which has somehow sort of made it a little bit more exciting. Even going away to Birmingham for the first game of the season, playing really well, getting a point. I thought that just sort of set the season up really nicely. Some really hard games between then and now, which I don't think we've done terribly bad. We've picked up a decent amount of points, much better than this time last year. And some of the bigger fixtures are already out the way. So I wouldn't, it's not been amazing. I think maybe if we got sort of three points more, or 6 points more, that would have been like a fantastic start to the season. But it was, it's kind of like what I expected. I think we've got a really good squad, albeit quite thin. But it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right about the eyes, but it does make it a bit more exciting that like so much more on social media, and like even just the fact that like loads more of the games are on Sky, which I know a lot of people will despise. But I can't really get to midweek away games, so for me it's quite nice to have some games on Sky that I can watch. But I think it's been quite a fun start. As you say, like I'm not going to sit here and say that it's been amazing for Reading. Like it's been decent, I'd say. Like probably just above expectation. If you'd asked me at the start of the season how I thought we'd be doing after 10-ish games, I'd say probably say a little bit above expectation. Some of the games that we haven't picked up points in, I would have said we would have, and some of the games we didn't. Like that's just how it is. I don't know how this question is going to go, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have a hero and a villain from Reading's first 9 games this season?
Hero, I am going to go with Ben Elliott. I just think he just looks amazing this season. Obviously popped up with some goals. Has just really sort of, I think I've said this for the last 2 weeks, but he just looks like a much better player this season than what he was like last season. Much stronger, links play together really well. Quick on the break. So yeah, I think my hero is going to be Ben Elliott. Villain, I really don't know. I don't think there's no one's really been shit. Do you know what I mean? Like no one has been
I don't think so.
There's been some pretty dodgy. I don't know. I feel a bit deep saying it. Maybe Boyce Clark. He's had a howler in goal.
Yeah.
It's kind. I guess it's kind of got to be him. I guess. I feel like
Yeah,
villain's a bit of a maybe the wrong word for it, but
yeah, no, it definitely is. I guess the easy cop out response to that is the villain is Die Young, right? Like,
Mate,
he's the biggest waste man like connected to Reading, so he can be the villain for the first 10 games and forever until he gets out of our club. So Die Young can be the villain. I don't really have a hero because I was going to go Ben Elliott too, which, much like last week's episode, we'll just agree on him being fantastic. Right, we'll end this week's podcast with questions. One question this week from Mark. He's our most loyal question asker. So cheers, Mark. We do appreciate you getting in touch. And it's actually a really good question, but annoyingly for Mark, I think we might have answered it, but we'll gloss over it. He's asked, given who we have played away this season and the fact that we have our one senior fullback who is injured in Yeardom, is it right to be too critical about our away form? And he said that he doesn't think it is right to be too critical about our away form. As I said, I think we have covered it, but anything else to say on that, Jim?
No, I'd agree. I mean, yeah, we have pretty much covered it already. I think there's just a few factors that are affecting the away form, and obviously, the squad depth and injuries is one of the main ones as well. And obviously they wanted to bring in fullbacks in the transfer window and were unable to. So I think they're aware of what the issues are, and they're just trying to make the best out of it with the players that we've got. So yeah, I do think the away form is going to pick up, and I agree with what Mark said.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's so easy to. Well, it's not that people forget, but like we have. Well, Sellers is like working with both hands tied behind his back at the moment. Like we just aren't in a strong position as a club, and I think what we're currently producing on the pitch. I'm not saying that fans should be happy with what they're seeing, and obviously every fan has their right to have their own opinion. But like with all the restrictions that we have, I don't think you can look at what we've done this season on the road more so and be too critical. Like for all the reasons you mentioned, and just purely because, like, yeah, like it's super tough for Reading like at the moment. Like for all the players, for all the staff, it's tough environment out there. So yeah, I definitely don't want to be too critical. So yeah, I agree with Mark. It's not right to be too critical. I actually just realised, Jim, that you were sent another question that I haven't mentioned. So we'll go with that next. Mysterious DMer to you, Jim. I mean, you don't have to say who it is, but well, it's not me.
I'll have to double check. I can't remember off the top of my head.
But they've asked, as fans, what is the most important trait a player can have, and what is your favourite attribute?
Yeah, I actually really like this question. It was a bit different to anything that I was kind of expecting. Favorite attribute? I just think so. In terms of like an attribute, what was it? Attribute and trait? Did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, you know what? I think I love a player that loves the club, and I think as a fan, that is the sort of player that everyone enjoys the most. They don't have to be the best player on the pitch, but if they show that they love the club and they put everything in on the pitch, then that's sort of more than enough for me, really. And then trait or attribute, I don't really know the definition between the two, to be honest. It's quite similar. Attribute, I think in this team, passing, it's really noticeable how much they've worked on passing compared to last season, and passing in small areas and within the box and breaking away. especially between sort of Nibs, Smith, Elliott, the wingers and wing. So, yeah, I think if you are a player that is decent at passing, considers themselves strong at passing, I think you'd fit into this team nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I really should have had a think if I'd not just read that out for the first time. I should have had a think and try and come up with something that's a bit different to you. I guess it's a similar note, but it's slightly different. I just love a player that plays with passion. And as I've said, basically on most of the podcasts we've done this season, I think this squad is full of that. I think it's players that just want to fight for the club. I mean, it is obviously nice when you have players like Alex Fernandez who just adore the club. I mean, I still don't really know why he likes us so much, but I do appreciate it. Like, went down really well when he was at the club, and also since he still seems to be enamoured with us, which is lovely. But yeah, I love players that play with passion. And yeah, I think passing's the one that you want, right? Like particularly in this team. But I always love a player that has a little bit of flair, bit of skill. Which again, I think there are players in this squad that do have that.
Yes.
But I think of like the likes of Gareth McCleary and things like that. Like I loved McCleary because I always felt that when he got the ball, he was going to do something special, take on his man, like do a few skills. I mean, and also he's not the only one that I've had that feeling with. But yeah, I love that little bit of 5-star skills. Albeit in League One, probably less required. You need someone to just pummel and do the basics right. But
I'd love to see it though. Oviageria as well springs to mind.
Yeah.
I can't really think of many other super skillful players than him. I remember his debut for Reading, and I just thought, this guy, he's he knows a few skills. He's been watching Ronaldinho videos for days.
Yeah, it's so good to like just watch because you're like, he could do something amazing. I mean, and then 9 times out of 10 it doesn't turn out to be, but like on the rare occasion that it does, and he beats like 5 men, hey, it's unreal. It's great to watch. So I do appreciate that. Right, Jim, I think that brings us to a close for this week. Thanks as ever for joining us. We've obviously got the Cheltenham game, which I don't think we'll do a show for because it's EFL trophy, but then we're straight into the international break. But we'll be right back once the internationals are out of the way. Enjoy the break, and I'll catch you later. But
perhaps
until then,
there'll be some. There might be some. There might be some takeover news.
There might be
between then, so maybe we'll fit in a podcast. But yeah, go on. You can do your fist pump now.
Oh yeah, come on, you arse. Nice one, Jim. I'll catch you next time.
All right. Yeah. See you.